saying.
Let's listen to the ranking Democrat on the House Oversight Committee, Elijah Cummings.
I will say it over and over and over again because it is. I want to thank you very much and good morning. I'm pleased to join my colleagues here today, and I echo their concerns about the President's first 100 days. One of our most serious concerns has been with former National Security Advisor Michael Flynn, his ties to Russia, and his lack of honesty with the American people and even with the Vice President of the United States. On Tuesday, I joined our chairman on the Oversight Committee, Jason Chaffetz, in viewing classified documents relating to General Flynn that were produced by the Department of Defense. These documents raise grave concerns, and I urge all members to view them. I also urge the executive branch to declassify them so that the American public can see them for themselves. While those documents remain under lock and key, I would like to announce today that I'm releasing 3 new documents. I worked with the Pentagon this week to remove and redact classified information and prepare these documents for public release. First, I'm releasing a letter that was sent directly to General Flynn on October 8, 2014, from the Office of General Counsel at the Defense Intelligence Agency, his former agency. This letter explicitly warned General Flynn, as he entered retirement, that the Constitution prohibited him from accepting any foreign government payments without advance permission. The Pentagon's warning to General Flynn was bold, italicized, and could not have been clearer. Second, I'm releasing a now unclassified and redacted version of a letter that the Defense Intelligence Agency originally sent to our committee in classified form on April 7, 2017. This new DIA letter counters the suggestion made by General Flynn's attorney on Tuesday that General Flynn followed the appropriate procedures when he accepted foreign funds for his trip to Moscow in 2015 and dined with the Russian President Putin. This new DIA letter states, and let me quote it directly, DIA did not locate any records referring or relating to Lieutenant General Flynn's receipt of money from a foreign source, end of quote. I don't care what his lawyer says. There is no such document saying that he requested permission to get money, to get the money, or a document saying that he received it. It also says this, and I quote, DIA did not locate any records of Lieutenant General Flynn seeking permission or approval for the receipt of money from a foreign source, end of quote. General Flynn's attorneys says he discussed his trip to Moscow with DIA, but we have no evidence, not a shred, that he disclosed his payments, which is what the Emoluments Clause is all about, from RT, the Kremlin-backed propaganda outlet. And we have no evidence, zilch, that he obtained permission from the Secretary of the Army and the Secretary of State to accept any foreign government payments as required by law. Third and finally, today I'm releasing a letter that we received from the Inspector General of the Department of Defense announcing that they too are now launching their own investigation of General Flynn. I do not want to take up too much time, so let me conclude with this. Earlier this week, the White House refused, absolutely refused, to produce even a single document, not a single document, in response to the bipartisan document requests that I sent with our Republican chairman. Not one syllable. I watched Sean Spicer make all kinds of excuses about how hard it would be to comply with our requests. Come on, man. Look, General Flynn served in his position for 24 days. So that excuse from the White House will not fly. I honestly do not understand why the White House is covering up for Michael Flynn. I don't get it. After the president fired him for lying. So the president fired him for lying about the communications with the Russian ambassador. They should be bending over backwards to help us. It does not make any sense, and it makes the American people think the White House has something to hide. There's obviously a paper trail, ladies and gentlemen. There is a paper trail that the White House does not want our committee to follow. But let it be known that we will follow it. We will follow it with everything we've got. And with that, I'm very pleased to introduce Senator Richard Blumenthal.
Thank you to Representative Cummings for his really profoundly significant historic work, and to all of our colleagues for being here today. I think that the swamp image lends itself to mimicry and mockery, and I love the reptiles. I love the Swamp Thing truck. I'm going to use them when I go home this weekend without attribution. And by the way, Sheldon, daughters love trucks too. I can tell you, with three sons and a daughter. But despite the humor, this subject is really deadly serious because it is a matter.
All right, we are going to continue monitoring this press conference from Democratic Senate and House leadership, but we want to bring in our panel to talk about all of this news from Elijah Cummings, a ranking Democrat on the House Oversight Committee, regarding Michael Flynn, the former National Security Advisor, and what he did not, according to this committee, disclose to anyone. David Chalian is with us, our political director. Our national security correspondent, Jim Sciutto, is here, along with Mark Preston, again, and Paige Payton. Jim Sciutto, let me just get to you and the reporting you have on this. Three big things, including a new investigation about Flynn and any ties to Russia by the Inspector General's office.
That's right. The confirmation of a DOD investigation of this, but also that Michael Flynn was warned by the Defense Intelligence Agency, which we'll remember he was the director of in 2014, a year before this visit to Moscow and this paid speech. He was warned that if you do something like that, you have to report a payment from a foreign government. I mean, this is really shaping up to be a truly egregious non-disclosure here. Because remember, this happened in plain sight. There were pictures of Michael Flynn in Moscow sitting next to the Russian President Vladimir Putin at this gala hosted by RT, Russia Today. He was there. He knew he did a speech, and his story has changed over time because he said at one point, well, I wasn't paid by the Russians. It came through my speaker's agency.
Jim, we're taking questions on this right now. Let's go back to the hearing. We'll come back to you in just a moment.
Sure.
Just weeks after the election, an investigation by ABC News revealed that the Trump organization was $364 million in debt to Deutsche Bank, which at the time was under investigation by the Department of Justice. Its role in the 2008 financial crisis and potential wrongdoing in a multi-billion-dollar offshore.
Jim Sciutto, sorry for that interruption right there. Please continue with your thought. You were talking about what you called an egregious omission, an egregious lack of coming forward with information about what General Flynn had done.
Exactly right, and a constantly changing story from retired General Flynn. I was saying, initially he said, well, I wasn't paid by the Russians, it came through my speaking agency. That's just misleading because the money comes from Russia, even if it's routed through your agent representing you for that speech. But in addition to that, weeks ago, Representative Cummings released documents showing that the Russians said, we are routing this payment through our London office to pay you. So there was already a paper trail showing exactly where that money was coming. And now we are learning, in addition to that, that prior to all of this, General Flynn was warned to report exactly these kinds of payments, and he didn't do that. And that poses legal problems. One, because he was an Army recently retired Army general, but also because he didn't put it on his security clearance form when he took the job as the president's national security advisor. So he's facing two legal problems there.
And the White House clearly facing political problems, David Chalian, which, Elijah Cummings was only too eager to point out. He said literally, I do not understand why the White House is covering up for Michael Flynn. There is a paper trail, he said, that the White House does not want to reveal. This puts enormous pressure on this White House, David.
Without a doubt. And I think he followed up saying to Sean Spicer, come on, man. I do think the White House, listen, first of all, the new investigation that we learned about, the IG investigation at the Department of Defense, this White House is eager to have some of these investigations wind down, not open up more investigations that are going to linger as a cloud over the administration. So that's first and foremost, because this just keeps this story out there for them. But as you're saying, this begs the question. So Michael Flynn, remember, was fired from the White House, John, because he was not truthful about his conversations with Russians to the vice president, right? That's what we learned and got caught at that. That got exposed. Well, was he truthful with the White House in the vetting process as he was becoming national security advisor about this payment from RT? I think that whatever that process, the vetting process of Michael Flynn is now going to get renewed scrutiny, and the White House is going to be pressured to provide a clear timeline of what, from the campaign transition into the position as national security advisor, what exactly they knew about this payment.
So, Mark Preston, as you address this next question, let's show our viewers this, photo that everyone has seen many, many times, but has new relevance today. And this is Michael Flynn dining next to Vladimir Putin. This was at the RT, Russia Today, which is a basically mouthpiece propaganda media outlet for the Kremlin, paid him to be there in Moscow. And these are now events where payments were clearly not cleared at all or approved for Michael Flynn. Mark, talk about why this matters for the American people. Why does it matter for folks at home?
Well, just take a step back and take a little bit of what Jim said and what David said. It was in plain view. It's amazing that Michael Flynn was put into the position that he was put in by the Trump administration, given his known ties to Russia or his willingness to work closely with Russia, which I might add is not necessarily a United States ally, where that is clear. But to what David said about the vetting, best case scenario is that Michael Flynn went rogue, they did not vet him correctly, and the White House is going to try to cut him loose. The worst case scenario for the White House is, and again, not proven by any stretch of the imagination now, is that Michael Flynn is seeking immunity. We know that he's seeking immunity. And why is he seeking immunity? And Paige could probably talk a little bit more to this, but you only will be accepted with an immunity request if you can get a bigger fish. And then you jump to the next step. And was there collusion during the election between higher level people in the Trump campaign and the Russian government or WikiLeaks?
All right, the White House has been asked for documents, as David Chalian was suggesting, asked for documents, asked for records pertaining to Michael Flynn during the transition and his days in the White House. Can they be forced, the White House, to release these documents? We're going to put that question to Paige Pate. All of you guys stick around right after this break.
Agencies have been responsive to your request.
Yeah.
They say the documents you want after January 20th are just not relevant to an investigation involving Flynn's payments from 2015 and 2016. Why are they relevant to your investigation?
Spicer also said that they didn't have documents. Remember that? Come on. These guys are playing games. And when you see Mr. Spicer, you can tell him I said that today. They're playing games. They have told us they have documents. And then they said executive privilege. And then they said some of them are before the inauguration. All I'm saying is let me tell you, when Hillary Clinton, I was on the Benghazi, ranking on Benghazi, and of course on oversight. When Hillary Clinton, when they went after her, I mean, if they spent 1,000th of the time going after Trump, President Trump, that they spent with Hillary Clinton, he'd be in big trouble. And I think Sarbanes said it best. This is not about just Democrats, Republicans, or independents. But the Republicans are not helping us. You got to understand that. They are not helping. And they could help. And so again, all of these documents are relevant because they go to what his relationship was with the Russians, what his relationship was with Turkey. We wanted to see the SF 86 forms because we wanted to see exactly what he told the president's people with regard to vetting. Did they vet for the highest security position? I mean, we don't know. But again, there is not one shred of evidence that General Flynn got permission to receive this foreign money, or that he acknowledged receipt of it.
Are you satisfied with Chairman Chaffetz's push to get these documents?
No, no. I am pleased that he joined me in requesting them. And now the next step is to sit down with the White House and go through some fundamental lessons with regard to separation of powers and the fact that we have to keep them in check. And third, try to figure out how we can work out the document situation. If we cannot come to a conclusion there and get the documents, then there'll have to be subpoenas. Keep in mind that when Hillary Clinton was up, was she going through what she was going through, they were subpoenaing, and Tammy will tell you, every other day, they are holding emergency hearings. All they got to do is use a little bit of that same effort in this regard. All right?
Congressman Cummings,
Yeah.
did Michael Flynn's attorney lie when they put out that statement that said that he had extensively had conversations with the DIA about his payments?
There is no evidence. There's no evidence that, the documents speak for themselves, by the way. There's no evidence that there was permission either given or even requested or acknowledged with regard to the payments. So you can come to your own conclusions. But we've given you the documents. Take a look at them. All right?
Do you think that Michael Flynn should be charged with a crime?
That's not my decision. That's not my decision. My decision is to look into this, investigate it, present it, and let others make those kind of judgments. But I got to tell you, I'll go back to what I said before. You cannot allow situations where the Congress requests documents and basically the White House says, take a hike. That's simply unacceptable. And it sets a very dangerous precedent.
I'm curious if you think your committee should call Flynn to testify before you now.
I asked the chairman if he would do that, and he said no.
Do you think they should?
Oh, yeah, definitely. I think the American people need to hear from the General Flynn. Keep in mind what his attorney said. He has a story to tell. He said he's got a story, and that's what his lawyer said. I am interested to know what that story is, and the implication is he has a lot of information that will help the American people and those looking into this get to the bottom of it.
Mr. Cummings, you said that the Republicans are not helping you. You specifically mean Chaffetz? Who else do you mean? Who are you directing that to? I
haven't seen any help. Have you? I haven't seen any from the Republicans, period. I mean, there are a few, but I don't see Ryan helping us. Do you? No.
You tried to talk to Ryan about
No,
that?
I talked to my chairman, Chaffetz. He's the chairman. He said that he's getting his orders come from the top, and I don't go above that. All right.
Is the
And
chairman's,
then this is my last question.
is the chairman's medical absence going to slow down this investigation?
No, it should not. It should not. It should not. It should not slow it down. I think the American people want answers. Yeah, one of the things that I've emphasized as a ranking member of this committee, and also the Benghazi committee, select committee, is that the things that we do must have integrity. For the American people to buy into them, they have to have integrity. They have to be fair. They have to be transparent. I mean, when you look at what is happening with Flynn, it's clearly not transparent. And it would leave a lot of doubts with regard to the American people as to what's going on here. But the basic question that I've been struggling with, and as a lawyer, I tell you it's something that baffles me, is why in the world, if the president fired someone for lying, do you then seem to protect them? I don't understand that. And I think that leaves a big question mark for all of us. I got to go, unfortunately.
There you have it. The ranking Democrat on the House Oversight Committee, Elijah Cummings, taking a number of questions having to do with this brand new investigation into former National Security Advisor Michael Flynn. A few headlines. We are here to keep the White House in check. No, the Republicans aren't cooperating with us. And you can tell, David Shelley, and you can tell Sean Spicer, that I think they're playing games with us. What's your takeaway?
It is clear that Congressman Cummings is trying to make sort of an institutional argument here that Congress, a co-equal branch, separation of powers, has the oversight responsibility to look into this. And when they request documents from the White House, Cummings is saying that he believes the White House needs to be far more cooperative than they being. At the same time, Poppy, you see Elijah Cummings and the Democrats' problem here. They're in the minority. You kept hearing him say, I go to my chairman and I ask him to help to cooperate, and he gets his marching orders from the top, from Speaker Ryan on down. So that's why what he's trying to do here is apply some pressure, shake something loose from the Republicans to help them join the Democrats to try to get something out of the White House. But the partisan politics here really do get in the way because Democrats have very little power other than to come before cameras and try to apply this kind of pressure.
And Jim Sciutto, one of the things we just did learn today is that the Defense Department Inspector General is now investigating this. Jim, what exactly does that mean? What will that investigation look like?
Well, you have two tracks here right now. Well, one is a legal track, non-report on a security clearance form. That's a violation of the law if you're not truthful on that form. As a retired senior Army officer, my understanding is that this is an administrative thing for them, still consequential for him, future perhaps benefits. I mean, there are a whole host of penalties that they could impose there. So you now have those two tracks. The other point I would make, and Manu Raju, my colleague, you heard him ask Elijah Cummings this question at the press conference there, is does this make a liar out of Michael Flynn's lawyer? Because Michael Flynn's lawyer had released a statement a few days ago saying, no, we spoke to the DIA about this. But now Cummings is producing documents saying, no, you didn't ask for permission, and permission was not given for this speech and for this foreign payment. That's a real issue going forward.
Manu, what's your biggest question coming out of what we just heard? You were in the room.
Well, it's going to be about this fight, I think, between the White House and the House Oversight Committee. That's the one thing that I tried to ask Mr. Cummings about. The White House had said that it had actually been responsive to the request from the House Oversight Committee, saying that, that the information that they wanted before January 20th, they said that actually they were in possession of some of those documents that they wanted pertaining to Michael Flynn and those payments. And they said after January 20th, well, that's just not relevant to your investigation. But when I try to ask Elijah Cummings about that, he said it is relevant to the investigation. They also want to know whether or not Michael Flynn disclosed any of this during the vetting process as he was hired to become the National Security Advisor. And we have not heard that from the White House as well as you're starting to see this start to break down along party lines. You saw a bipartisan showing earlier this week when Congressman Chaffetz, the Republican chairman of the committee, appeared with Elijah Cummings. But now you're hearing Cummings' frustration that Chaffetz is not pushing hard enough to get those documents. And Cummings wants to hear from Flynn before the committee, something that actually Chaffetz does not want to hear from because he believes that's the Intelligence Committee's purview. So you're seeing some party line breakdowns here as the Democrats want more documents from the White House. So far, the White House says no.
Yeah, that was fascinating, Manu, right there, to hear Elijah Cummings say he wants Michael Flynn to come testify before his committee, and the House Intelligence Committee is investigating right now very much a political football. Mark Preston, I think some context here is important. If you can give it to us, that would be great. General Michael Flynn, remind us of the role that he played, just how close he was to Donald Trump during this campaign and through the transition. He's not just anybody. I mean, he was, in some ways, the most vocal, at sometimes the loudest supporter of then-candidate Trump and harshest critic of Hillary Clinton.
Right, and if you go back, Michael Flynn at the beginning of the Republican presidential primary talked to several different candidates, advised them or at least had a discussion with them. He eventually settled on Donald Trump and really stood by his side. Donald Trump very loyal to him, Michael Flynn very loyal to him. If you remember, back at the Republican convention, Michael Flynn gave a very searing speech against Hillary Clinton. And in fact, he used the term lock her up, kind of really energized the audience that night for the convention in Cleveland that night. He is a three-star general. He did work in the Obama administration before being fired because of his management style. but he's also somebody that, as you said, John, was so close to Donald Trump, appeared with him on the campaign trail, helped him on foreign policy and intelligence matters. And as Jim Sciutto noted during our coverage here, he really became the top official when it became to intelligence for the Pentagon, the Department of Defense, and became Donald Trump's top advisor. So again, you go back to what was the vetting process for Michael Flynn when they decided to put him in that role. Forget about the campaign role. I mean, that in itself is troubling enough. But what was the vetting process before he became literally the person on the shoulder whispering in the ear of Donald Trump for those 24 days at the beginning of the administration?
David Chalian, you are White House Press Secretary Sean Spicer. At 1 o'clock today, you come out to the podium and you do what?
I'm glad I don't have that job today. But listen, I think you got to try and hold your argument. It's not like Sean Spicer is going to just crumble because Elijah Cummings held a press conference, but he is going to be just hammered with questions about this timeline, about these documents again. He's going to have to restate why he doesn't think post-January 20th is relevant when the Democratic member of the Oversight Committee says it is, and really delve back into the vetting process. So he's going to be no doubt prepared for all those questions coming his way. I imagine his goal is going to be to try to turn away from this topic as quickly as possible and get back to what they think are the list of accomplishments leading up to the president's 100th day in office.
Good luck with that. Sean Spicer today at 1. David Chalian, Jim Sciutto, Manu Raju, Mark Preston. Great discussion. Thanks for being here with this breaking news this morning. We'll be right back.